Welcome to Anthropology 185, an introduction to cultural diversity in the United States from the perspective of cultural anthropology. My name is John Cinnamon. I'm a cultural anthropologist and an associate professor of anthropology at Miami University Hamilton, and I'm also the author of this course. As you'll see shortly, my research has been mostly in West Central Africa, but I'm also interested in looking at cultural practices and diversity here at home from an anthropological perspective. To give just one example, what do current debates and attitudes about immigration, LGBTQI rights, or the heroin epidemic in Ohio, or the shrinking middle class tell us culturally about us? Those are questions that we could answer from many perspectives, but I'm particularly interested in the way anthropologists would go about looking at those. So in this intro, I'm going to give you an overview of the course and also a quick outline of this module. So here is what we'll be looking at in this presentation. In the presentation, you'll be introducing yourselves, so please allow me to introduce myself. I'll show you some pictures and talk through those. We'll talk about the course goals. I'll explain to you the module system and how modules are organized. In this particular course, in Canvas, we'll talk a little bit about the kinds of assignments you'll be completing. I'll give you some insight into my grading. I do want to touch on academic honesty and plagiarism, and talk about expectations for both students and myself as the instructor. Right, a lot of this information is in the syllabus, which is in Canvas, but I want to present it here. And then in Module 0, a kind of getting started module, we are going to view this presentation, which we're doing right now, and then we will do a first discussion in which you will introduce yourselves to one another and then respond to a couple of your colleagues, right, to create a conversation that will continue throughout the course. We'll look at a couple of film clips, which we'll often do in virtually every module, and that will also be followed by a brief discussion and responses. You'll take a look at the course syllabus, and then there will be a quiz on some of the information in this presentation and that syllabus. So that's what we are looking at here. But first, let me introduce myself, right? Going back to the beginning, right? So here I am with my grandpas, just a few weeks old, at my baptism in Detroit, Michigan, long before I decided to become an anthropologist. My paternal grandfather on the right owned a grocery store in suburban Detroit, and my maternal grandpa, who helped to raise me, owned a sand and gravel business outside of Detroit in what is now a suburban housing division. That's my mom holding the future anthropologist, but at that moment, neither of us suspected that that's what I would be doing. Let's jump ahead to my first prom. As a freshman invitee with my friend Mark. In the early 70s, you need to know that plaid bell-bottoms and platform shoes were all the rage, right? Aren't these guys cool? So I went to high school in Charlevoix, a small tourist town on Lake Michigan with an interesting history and culture. And then moving right along, I will take us to Gabon, Africa, where I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in the early 1980s. I taught secondary school English and math, and on the top left-hand picture, I'm standing in front of the little house where I lived. And then in 2008, I returned to Mekambo while undertaking research on a Gabonese spirit movement. And as you can see, in the lower left-hand photo, there's a cell phone tower in the background, right? So globalization has pushed into northeastern Gabon. I met my future wife, Jeannette, while in Gabon, and here we are pictured as young people, right, in 1983 and 1984 in northern Gabon. Here's a shot of Jeannette and me visiting my dad and stepmom for the holidays in Sacramento in 1996. I'm sitting next to my paternal aunt. I have three. And my cousin Liz, my aunt's youngest daughter, is also the youngest of my generation. I'm the oldest, and you can see her here in the background. Here's another paternal aunt, Debbie, with her mixed-race son, Ian. And so one of the things I want to suggest in this presentation is how diversity is integral not only to my family, but to many, many U.S. families today. Here's another example of family diversity. My brother Chris is shown here with his daughter Sophia, now in her mid-20s, and my adopted nephew Luis, born in Guatemala. Luis has recently graduated from high school and is beginning college. This is a shot from fieldwork in Gabon in 2005. I was undergoing a consultation by a Gabonese seer and healer in a village, but don't be fooled. The man on the top left with the baton to his ear, listening to the spirits, has advanced degrees from Germany, works in management for a large hotel in the capital city, and when I met him, drove a BMW. Here's a photo from my dad's third wedding in 2010. My mom and dad divorced when I was still very young, and after my dad's second wife passed away, he fell in love in his early 70s and eventually remarried and is very happy, and I'm very happy for him. My half-brother Drew on the right here is gay, so more family diversity. Here's my dad's younger brother's family on vacation. With my two cousins, Uncle Mike. My uncle is in the background. My two cousins are wearing the white t-shirt on the left and the blue t-shirt on the right. Both of their wives are from the Philippines. And the mother of one of my cousins from a first marriage is originally from Hawaii. You can see that student who's in university now in California in the background next to my uncle. And my second cousin, in the lower left corner in the foreground, is transgender and studied film at the University of California, Berkeley. This is at home in Hamilton, Ohio. My wife, whom we met earlier, is on the right in our dining room. And the woman on the left, Fabienne, was visiting from Gabon. She's a priestess and healer, and was communicating with spirits, including my mom's, whose childhood portrait you can see on the wall. It was a very special night in my household. Here back in Gabon in early 2014, I'm learning to dance Bwanga in an all-night initiation and healing ceremony in Libreville. And as you can tell, I am Miami. On that same trip, I visited Yaoundé, Cameroon, where I taught for a year in 2011-12 on a Fulbright. And here I was giving a guest lecture to Cameroonian students who were enthralled to learn about the joys of anthropology. So I just want to tell you guys are really in for a treat in this course. Believe it or not, Thanksgiving 2014 at Ford Field in Detroit was one of the most joyful days of my life, spent with the people I love most. My brother, Chris, and his daughter, Sophia, whom you've already met. My dad and his wife, Sue. She's holding the lion sign. Nephew Luis with his uncle and mom and cousin. And then on the right, you can see my wife and me wearing our Detroit Lions gear. And atop it all off, the Lions beat the Chicago Bears that day. So it was a great day. This is back in Libreville, Gabon in December 2014. That night in a Bwiti temple, I received sacred implements, a Bwiti harp and a cross, as well as the red sash I'm wearing. And this is also related to my research on spiritual life and healing in Gabon, which is very important there. And finally, in February 2017, I traveled back to Libreville for a conference, and here I'm presenting my paper on tension, sorcery, and politics in one Gabonese family that I know very well. So I hope this short introduction has allowed you to have an idea about who the course author is, how I got interested in anthropology by traveling to Africa after I graduated from college, and how my own family is fairly diverse and multicultural without being extraordinary. Heck, even Donald Trump, who has wanted to restrict immigration in the U.S., has married not one, but two immigrant wives, right? So, there's lots of diversity going around in this country. How has cultural diversity shaped your own life? Or if you don't think it has, right? If not in your family, then in friendships or fellow students in school or in the workplace or even in your church. Okay, let's turn back to the course here. In our overview, so here are some of the main course goals listed on the syllabus, right? So I want you to learn some core anthropological concepts. I won't read all those here, but we will look at all of them and apply these to the study of U.S. cultural diversity. And within anthropology, you'll learn to draw on field work, that is going out and visiting sites of diversity, ethnography, which is writing about culture, and then theory, the concepts we use to think about culture and diversity. You'll hone your critical thinking skills by analyzing key debates on cultural diversity in the U.S., and I give some examples of what those are here. You can read those on your own. Practice writing skills by writing responses to study questions and discussions. I'll talk about those shortly. And ask you to apply core insights to the world around you. You'll also submit the midterm and final essays that ask you to review key course themes, right? Sorry, these are a little cut off on the screen, but you can review these in the course syllabus. And finally, examine intercultural and global diversity within the United States by looking at a wide variety of social and economic groups here that represent the United States as a global society. Okay, so Anthro 185 is divided into 10 modules, not counting this one. And here are the module themes, right? So Module 1, an overview of cultural anthropology and the culture concept. Module 2, diversity, globalization, and multiculturalism. 3, histories of diversity and immigration, right? And moving on, race and ethnicity, class, spatial diversity and borderlands, gender and sexuality, language and culture, and finally Module 9, religious diversity. And Module 10 is a kind of shorter wrap-up and final. You can download most of the course readings within the modules. You do need to purchase or otherwise acquire one book, Lawrence Ralph's Renegade Dreams, listed on the syllabus, which we'll begin reading in Module 4, so that's coming up. You need to get it. You can purchase it through the Miami, Hamilton, or Regionals bookstore, or order it online, or if you don't want to purchase it, you should be able to borrow it through a university library. It's available on Kindle as well. Contact me if you have questions about how to get it. Right, I can help you. I want you to get it. You need to get it to fulfill course requirements. There are a couple of ethnographic papers in the course due at the end of modules 4 and 9, and a couple of very short papers in modules 1 and 5, as well as the midterm and final. Okay, so let me give you an idea about module organization, right? So I try to keep it fairly consistent through the course, so you're not constantly presented with surprises. Module 1's a little bit more robust, a little bit longer, but most of the modules follow a pretty similar structure. Here you see Module 3 in the Modules tab of the course, and I've arranged these so you can work through them from start to finish. You're seeing my view here, but your view shouldn't be that different. Module layout. Okay, so each module begins with an outline of module content, and then a recorded video introduction, a little bit like this one, and then there are usually a few film clips that follow as a way to introduce the subject matter and to get us thinking. These are followed by a discussion to get us talking. You'll complete these in Canvas. You'll also reply to a couple of your colleagues each time, right? And this is a key way that students will be interacting with one another in the course. So I'm hoping you'll take this seriously. Usually students do, and they want to perform well for one another and take one another seriously. And that to me is a sign of a successful course, and of course also leads to successful student performance. So after the discussion, there are module presentations. Often these are narrated PowerPoint lectures or sometimes lecture notes on content pages that you would read through fairly quickly. I've chosen to present basic information this way instead of asking you to plod through a textbook. But if you do want a textbook recommendation, contact me if you have the time to read it, and I'll be happy to give you some recommendations. But you should watch these presentations or read them or engage with them carefully, take notes. These module presentations are followed by quizzes, right, to sort of quiz you on what you will have learned to provide review. And then we usually come to a set of readings related to the module theme, and the readings are followed by study questions that you'll answer in Canvas and upload. And then sometimes there's an additional exercise if there's a paper, the midterm, the short papers, etc. To conclude Module 3, for example, there's a film called Columbus Day Legacy, which you can see, and that's followed by a discussion of the film. It's related to the content. And so once you've completed the second discussion of Module 3, including replying to a couple of colleagues, right, you're ready to move on to Module 4. Okay, assignments. So assignments are generally due on Sunday evenings at 11:59 p.m. This provides you with enough flexibility so that if you work during the week, you can finish them on the weekends, right? If at all possible, I encourage you to work steadily throughout the week so that you're not swamped on Sundays trying to work too quickly through this through the information and assignments. It's important to submit all the assignments to get the credit, but also to keep up. Otherwise, you'll be quickly overwhelmed. This course does not stop, and so try not to fall behind. If you do fall behind, carve out the time to get caught up quickly before you're swamped. In online courses, students who fall behind, tend to struggle and often won't complete the course. So if you find that happening, please contact me and I will try to help you get back into the flow. I will grade study questions, discussions, papers, and midterms, and final essays. Usually the week after they're due. I'll try to do it sooner rather than later. And I'll provide more detailed comments at the beginning of the course to help you get a better idea on what I'm looking for, so that you know what to do, what's expected, and how I engage with your writing and thinking. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the assignments. Quizzes usually follow the module presentations. As I've said, these are multiple choice. Discussions often follow a set of brief film clips that are in each module. There are 2 discussions in this module on film clips and course introductions. You also saw that there are 2 discussions in module 3. In most, there's only 1 discussion. How not to write discussion replies, of course. So be respectful to each other, but don't be sort of, gushing in praise. That's not engagement. That doesn't take any effort. You don't even have to read what somebody has written to write that. Golly, your discussion post changed my entire life, right? That's probably, I mean, it could be true, but probably that would really be exceptional. So I'd rather have you engage people, respectfully, of course, but here's some examples, right? I saw that issue a bit differently. Here's how, and then explain yourself. Or your posting reminded me of something I saw recently in Cincinnati or wherever I happen to be, and then explain that briefly. Or here's how I can use that concept in my upcoming paper or in real life or at work, etc. So, or this helped explain to me, something I'd seen recently, etc. So those are the kinds of engagements, right, that I hope to see in discussions. The study questions usually follow module readings. I'm looking for you to engage the readings after having actually read them, to raise questions if you've struggled. I will give you, full credit if you struggle, but you need to be precise about what you're struggling with and ask very specific questions that show that you've grappled with the readings. I hope you need to support your discussion points with specific examples. If your writing is too vague, I'll assume that you've either not read the reading or you've kind of, whipped through it too quickly. So I want you to get something out of it. Cite page numbers where appropriate, so I can go back and look. And above all, do not plagiarize, right? Avoid BS, right? If you try to BS your way through, right, guess what? We'll both know it. Okay, just saying. All right. Finally, there are a couple of short papers at the end of modules 1 and 5. I think at the end of module 1, I want to ask you what it means to be American, right? That's pretty quick. And there's something else at the end of module 5. A couple of ethnographic observations, right? I'll understand these. You'll understand what I mean by these in due course. But I'll introduce the assignments earlier, but they'll be due at the end of modules 4 and 9, right, respectively. And then there are midterm and final essays. The midterm and final may also include an objective section. And generally, the midterm will cover the first half of the course, the final, the second half of the course, although I may ask you to kind of go back to this first module and pull together some, themes from that. Okay, so, great. Grading. All right, so I'll try to use it in a 1,000-point scale if I can make all the assignments add up to 1,000. And so here's the scale, right? That also translates into percentages, right? So if they don't come out to 1,000, then I'll divide your total points by the total number of possible points, and then convert those to a percentage, right? And so, right, so if you had, 90% or 900 points, however it turns out, that's an A minus, right? An 85% or 850 points is a B, etc. So that's pretty straightforward. Okay, academic honesty and plagiarism. This entire course is open book, so I fully expect you to take quizzes and to answer study questions, toggling back and forth between presentations or readings, right? I don't expect you to do them in group, and the multiple choice quizzes are, varied anyway. And so, I want you to do your own work, but obviously it's open book. I can't control it. So, you can use your sources. That may slow you down. So, the better you're prepared before you undertake assignments, the better you'll do on those assignments. What I expect you not to do is to cheat by submitting other students' work or cutting and pasting from the web, right? Cite your sources, cover your backside, protect yourself, right? Plagiarism is a big mess at Miami, so don't do it. See the syllabus in Canvas. There's a statement on academic honesty and plagiarism that's a bit longer. Here's how the Anthro Major's Handbook defines plagiarism: presenting the work, words, or ideas of another person as though they were one's own without giving the originator credit. Plagiarism includes using direct quotes, paraphrasing, downloading from the web without proper citation, recycling others or your own work from other courses, or using paper writing services, right? Turnitin catches many cases of plagiarism, so again, you'll be better off avoiding it, and you may have to work harder, but you'll get more out of the course. Also, I should tell you that Miami is just beginning to use software even to verify that the student who signs up for an online course is the one actually doing the work. So as students become more resourceful at cutting corners, the university spends more resources to catch them. All right, so there we are. Here is a list of expectations for students from the syllabus, right? So check Canvas regularly. Look at your Miami email during the week, although I try not to flood your inbox with multiple daily messages, right? But occasionally you'll hear from me to clarify an issue or to remind you of something or to encourage you. Submit assignments prior to their due date or time, right? So as I said, in most cases that's 11:59 on Sundays for a given module or two. Complete all readings and activities in a timely manner. Spend enough time per module. I'm thinking 4 to 6 hours, but it will vary according to students. So you need to invest some time in this, and that's aside from additional papers, the midterm and the final. I want you to submit work that demonstrates a clear understanding of the material and engagement with course concepts, presentations, and readings. I encourage you to keep an open mind, especially in a diversity course, about the material and other people's opinions. You don't have to agree with me or other students or the readings, but I do expect you to listen and engage. Obviously, treat fellow students and the instructor, that would be me, with respect, even again if we don't always agree. And I feel strongly about respecting students, and if I'm ever inadvertently disrespectful to you or offend you, please let me know and we'll work it out. Okay. And then finally, please notify me if you have problems or struggling or questions, right? And I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, as the instructor, I will check Canvas regularly to monitor discussion postings and check assignments, right? I'm in my email very regularly, at least Monday to Friday. On vacation, summer and winter term, I don't always check my email on the weekend, but I'll try to check it on Sundays, which is when assignments are due. During the week, I will answer you usually much sooner than 48 hours, but sometimes I'll be busy doing stuff, and so it might take me longer to get back to you. And you can write to me through Canvas or through my email address. I'll try to grade as expeditiously as possible. That's sometimes a challenge for me when I'm caught up with other activities. And I can be available for virtual office hours or on the Miami-Hamilton campus if you live locally and want to meet face-to-face. I'm happy to meet with students. We can talk on the phone, etc. Right? So, give me advance notice, and I'm happy to interact with you. And again, right, I feel that it's important to treat other students, rather, this is a typo here, but treat other students with respect, to treat you guys with respect, again, and I won't always agree with you. So that's it for now. Sorry to go on for so long here, but I wanted to introduce myself so you know who you're dealing with. And at the end of the module, you'll take a quiz on some of the information presented here, the course outline, and on the syllabus, which I'd also like you to review. That is the only assigned reading in this module, and there's a syllabus tab that you can look at. Okay, so let's go on to introducing yourselves to discussion.